the vital role that campaigns and elections play in the battle of ideas. We'll explore that and more on today's edition of Life Matters. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. We're your radio show on the right to life. It's a very specific thing. It's not about your feelings. It's not about your theology. The right to life is a very important legal and political and philosophical assertion from America's founding documents. But it's an assertion that has been made throughout Western civilization's history. And that is that human beings should be protected by their governments and not oppressed by their governments. It is a statement that we've been given our lives, not by the government, but by a creator. It's a self-evident truth. What does that mean? It's self-evident. That means if you look into it, if you really examine it, if you kick it around in your own mind or even with others, it's pretty clear. We live in an ordered universe. Things make sense if you really think about them. So that's true in science. It's true in various forms of technology. And America's founders said it's true of moral and legal principles in terms of what makes a just government, that governments can be considered just or unjust. And think about this, even if you're not in love with America, even if you're a woke person and you've decided that America's founding is flawed, there's still an idea that you're willing to present. And that is that certain laws that are passed are considered unjust. Well, that's an unjust law. Well, wait a second. It's a law, and therefore it's just, right? No, I would agree with you that the standards of justice are higher than lawmakers themselves. The standards of what is just and unjust, there's a higher law. And that's what natural law refers to. There's higher law to whom the king is accountable. That's what our reference was to George III, and even before that to King John and the Magna Carta, that the king can have responsibility, but even the king must answer to higher principles. It's a very significant premise, and that's the premise that America's founders used to go on in that tradition and create an entire government that was based on the idea that there's higher laws, and those higher laws allow us to determine what a just law is. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Have you thought about this before? I hope you have. It's a very important line of thought and reasoning, and I don't care what political spectrum you're in. When you say, I don't like this law, I prefer that law, you're actually referring to principles of higher law. What the Dobbs decision of July 2022 said, that's not right, because every state has a duty, as we started out today, the duty of a just government is to protect lives, and every state has a duty to define the laws that will protect the lives within their state. Very, very important. Justice Alito wrote that out. He overturned Roe, and the Supreme Court agreed with him. And the fact is, it's up to every state to make up that state's laws regarding abortion. It's not up to the individual abortionist. If you'd like to know more about this, it's important that you know what it means when Roe being overturned has affected our culture. I wrote a book on Roe v. Wade. It's called The Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, because there were two decisions that were conjoined that day. The pop media doesn't tell you that. NBC, ABC, CBS, and PBS. No, those pop flippant media people, they don't explain the actual laws. Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton were the combined decisions. So the book is called Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, How the Supreme Court Unleashed Medical Killing. And that's available on Amazon and wherever fine books are sold. But you need to understand that what Roe did, Roe said only the abortionist can make this decision. And in so doing, it struck down the laws of all 50 states. Roe and Doe, they're combined. They're often just referred to as Roe. But the Roe and Doe decisions of 73 prohibited all states from protecting that baby in the womb. It's extraordinary. The Dobbs decision said, no, the states have a compelling interest to protect lives. You see, every state, they can make up their laws about homicide and murder. And in Nevada, they have different rules for homicide and for murder than California or Oregon. The state legislature determines what the best rules will be. Some states even say, we're going to kill people in our state. They really do. They have laws that say that. They're called capital punishment. And each state must decide which human beings will be protected under which circumstances and which human lives will be taken and under which circumstances. That's the job of the states. It's not the job of an abortionist. So the Dobbs decision was clear. It's not up to an abortionist to make this decision. Each state has to protect lives, and they're going to decide when and how to do it. You're now living in the post-Dobbs environment. You're now living in a situation where the right to life and the duty to protect lives is now made obvious. So your state can decide, your state must decide when they will protect lives. When we come back, we're going to talk about exactly that and in the elections of 2022 and what your voting in the fall of 2022 really means in your particular state. We're heard nationwide, but particularly in California. We're on 12 stations in California, many other stations across the nation. We are on talk stations. We're on religious stations. This isn't a religious issue, though. This is about objective facts. And yes, objective facts about killing innocent human beings. If you do have a religion, if you do have some faith, that would bother you. If there are laws that say, yeah, you can kill innocent human beings and throw them away, that would bother you regardless of what your religion is. But it doesn't mean it's a religious debate. It's about an objective reality of what are the laws going to do. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that, what it means in the post-Roe world where Roe's been overturned, where each state now can determine which babies will be protected, under which circumstances, and what are lawmakers going to do? Because elections is how you get lawmakers. That's how laws are determined. So this election is going to be very, very important. We've got a lot to get into, particularly in California, but across the nation. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Well, hi. I just wanted to thank you for joining me. You know, I have good friends, children, young adults, and adults that have Down syndrome. And they are so loved. Their parents love them so much because they're the happiest people you'd ever want to know. I really love them. I'm going to tell you something, though, that's rather frightening. The government of France has now prohibited showing positive images of Down syndrome children and letting parents know how lovable they are. That's an actual law in France. Here in the U.S., 80-some-odd% of Down syndrome kids are killed by abortion before they're born. In France, it's 96%. So we're not a whole lot better. If you'd like to help out, you can go to the National Down Syndrome Society, ndss.org, to help out. That's ndss.org. We really are in a battle of ideas, and lives really are at stake.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Johnston. You're listening to Life Matters. We're talking about the right to life. And that's not just about abortion. It's not really about your feelings or about babies and diapers. It's not about your theology. All those things can mix into it. But what we're underscoring is it's about the law. It's about whether or not the laws of your state will protect innocent babies and innocent other people, because the right to life now has become an important issue when it comes to killing the medically vulnerable, those who are dependent, those who are elderly or disabled, those who are seriously ill. It's been licensed that you can kill those people. That's the right to life issue. That's the same debate. Should the government allow the killing of a vulnerable person that's not been put on trial? They've not done anything wrong. They're just considered less than perfect. They're costing too much. Or maybe they're depressed. Or maybe they haven't asked, but who would want to live like that? If you're compassionate, we should be compassionate and put them out of their misery. Have you heard that before? If you haven't been paying attention, because that's a very common idea. To dismiss human beings as furniture in your life and to say, I'd never want to live like that, and just wash your hands of them. Be done with them. So the right to life is not just about the abortion debate. Today, though, we're going to talk about it because Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022. In July of 2022, the Dobbs decision returned to every state that right to say, we decide who will live and die through our laws. It's not up to individual abortionists to decide which baby will be killed. Now think about it. People think that Roe v. Wade, you'll have to go back in Life Matters. We have several episodes dedicated to you understanding Roe v. Wade, but it did not give women the right to make that decision. It only gave them the opportunity to ask, to get a consultation. Roe v. Wade specifically only gave doctors authority. Only the abortionist could make the decision. An abortionist arguably could say, no, I don't think I'll do this abortion. I'm not going to do this. You don't have good enough reasons. By the way, if you're an abortionist, you don't need very good reasons. But all authority was given to the abortionist, and contrary to the media, contrary to the dominant media culture, women were not given the authority. The authority was entirely given to doctors to do what they want. If you doubt me, listen to Ruth Bader Ginsburg as she did an interview in 2013 and talking about Roe v. Wade. It wasn't for women. It was only for doctors. Listen to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Another feature of Roe is Roe really isn't about the woman's choice, is it? It's about the doctor's freedom to practice his profession as he thinks best. It wasn't woman-centered. It was physician-centered.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg says it wasn't woman-centered. It was physician-centered. They had all the authority. And the Dobbs decision said they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have the power of life and death. It's up to the state legislature to determine what the laws of that state are, who will be protected. So you need to understand what Roe v. Wade really did, and you need to understand what the Dobbs world now means, because we're now coming to the first election since the Dobbs decision. Now, every election after this will be important, and that means that the position of candidates is very, very important. Up to now, candidates could say, well, I'm personally blah, blah, blah. I'm personally pro-life. I'm personally pro-choice, but it's the Supreme Court. It's settled. But the Supreme Court never had that authority. The Supreme Court is not supposed to make up its own laws. Again, if you go back to episode 241, that's just one. But we go into depth on what Roe v. Wade really did and how inappropriate it was. And again, my book, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, How the Supreme Court Unleashed Medical Killing by Brian Johnston, available at Amazon and other places that fine books are sold. You'll understand what Roe really did. And now that we have a post-Roe environment, you'll understand the significance of your state legislature and who you elect to office, both in the state legislature, but also to Congress, and also to your local offices. Now, in California, we've got a very difficult situation. Every state does. California is merely the most notorious. But we have a proposition on our ballot. It's Proposition 1. And this would put in the Constitution the right to unlimited abortion and abortion funding, and what Gavin Newsom calls tourist abortions. He doesn't call it that, but that's what it is. He's bringing women in, pregnant women, and we're paying for it with our tax money. It would authorize that in the Constitution, and that means even in future years, if pro-life legislators do come into office in California, it's in the Constitution. So they couldn't pass a law until they first changed the Constitution of the state So Proposition 1 is a sweeping proposal that's on this year's ballot. There's also one in Vermont. And in other states, you are hearing about these sweeping proposals. I want to tell you something and why my book is important for you. Again, my book, Evil Twins, Roe and Doe, How the Supreme Court Unleashed Medical Killing. The pro-abortion mindset is saying we've got to return and restore Roe v. Wade. We must reinstitute Roe v. Wade. They're lying to you. They do not want Roe v. Wade. They never liked Roe v. Wade. It didn't give women the right to do or have an abortion on their terms. It was always the abortionist. They don't want to go back to that. They are lying. And when you look at Proposition 1 in California or in Vermont at their constitutional proposal, they're going far beyond Roe v. Wade. So don't believe the media. Don't believe NBC, ABC, PBS. Don't believe even Fox News. Some of those folks slip up because they're news consumers too, and I hate to say it, they don't always look at the exact details of what they're saying. They don't want to see Roe v. Wade restored. Nobody, no pro-lifer wants to, and no true abortionist, no true feminist wants a return to Roe. I'm going to have you hear again from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Roe versus Wade never gave women the authority. It actually denied them their authority. It gave it all only to the abortionist. Listen to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, it really isn't about the woman's choice, is it? It's about the doctor's freedom to practice his profession as he thinks best. It wasn't woman-centered. It was physician-centered.
Is that enough to convince you? They do not want to return to Roe. They're lying to you when they say, let's reinstitute Roe. That's a cover. Two important things to know. First, the word choice has been given two contradictory meanings, and they mislead you. For the average person, if you stop them now, I'll admit in California, the average person will say, I'm pro-choice. But that same person doesn't mean what Ruth Bader Ginsburg wants. That same person doesn't mean what the Feminist Women Health Center and Gavin Newsom want. That average Californian thinks that choice means having abortions available. That abortion should be available for the hard cases, or there should be abortions early on and maybe in the second trimester, but have them available later. But they don't believe in unlimited abortion. You check the polling on that. One great poll is the Rasmussen poll in California. But it reflects what's reflected in other national polls, and that is there's a very, very small quintile. That means 1/5. A very, very small percentage of the population wants unlimited abortion at any time, for any reason, or no reason in particular. In California, it's only 13% of the population. All the other Californians that will call themselves pro-choice, they want it available, earlier on in pregnancy. They want it maybe up to 3 months, maybe others up to 6 months. Others, if there's severe fetal deformity. You need a reason. Only a small number of people say, I don't need a reason. I want to kill the baby anytime. That's what they mean by choice. I choose to end the baby's life. Choice. That's what it means to be pro-choice. That's the actual meaning of pro-choice. But the average person has not been educated on that because they watch NBC, ABC, PBS, LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, New York Times. They're educated by the culture. They're inculcated into a distortion of what the laws actually are. So we've been talking about the laws. You're listening to Life Matters. And the laws are what are here to protect all of us. Again, people think, well, I like babies, so the abortion debate is about babies. Or I like moms and I like women, and this is a debate about moms and women. It's actually not. It's a debate about the purpose of the law. And the purpose of the laws are actually to protect lives. Do think about that. So understand why we have a limited government, why concern for government and the laws are really what this debate is about in abortion. And if you pay attention to that, you'll have a much better grasp on why these elections now. So I talked about, yes, here in California and in other states, the media is saying we need to restore Roe. Oh, Roe's been overturned. It's terrible. Roe never created unlimited abortions. Roe never said a woman can do whatever she wants and whenever she wants to. Again, in my book, I outline and quote specifically from Justice Blackmun. Several earlier episodes, go back to episode 247, go back to episode 241. Roe versus Wade never said what the media said it said. It never gave women the unlimited right to do any abortion anytime. It never granted her absolute autonomy to do with her body whatever she wanted. It was explicitly stated that we're not doing that in Roe v. Wade. You will not be given this right. And that offended feminists. So feminists now want unlimited abortion. They're telling you, well, we're just restoring Roe. No, they're not. This is a very, very serious battle. You're involved in the battle of ideas, and ideas that are enforced are called laws. When you elect lawmakers, you are addressing this issue. You need to know where they stand.
Life Matters continues after this.
They say sunlight is the best disinfectant. Did you know that California has a law on the books that says you need to protect babies born alive in the course of an abortion? But that law is simply ignored. The current legislature and Governor Newsom's administration support all abortions all the time, and they simply do not examine or regulate the practice even though our tax dollars pay for it. We need to shine a light on this cover-up of the abortion industry in our state. Go to californiaprolife.org and click on the Light of Day project. We need the facts about late-term abortion to be examined and made known. We need the government doing its job to protect lives. We need the light of day on this. Go to californiaprolife.org.
And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters. If you're in California, the California Pro-Life Council is the state affiliate of National Right to Life. I suggest whatever state you're in, go to nrlc.org, find out where people stand that are running for office. Your state affiliate will list the pro-life candidates. Every affiliate has a PAC, a political action committee, and we want to know where candidates stand. In California, we're looking all the way down the ballot, not just at Congress, not just at the executive offices like governor statewide, but all the way down the ballot to counties, to city councils, to school boards. Because Planned Parenthood wants to set up a school-based abortion referral center at your local schools. And if you elect the wrong people to that school board, once they're elected, it's very hard to change them. It's before the elections, you have to know where these people stand. So in California, go to californiaprolife.org. That's all spelled out, no hyphens, californiaprolife.org. And there you can find out where the candidates stand. And we have a special tool where you can download your actual voting address and you can go down to your precinct, the local school board, the local city council. Is that city council going to give a grant to have an abortion center in their town? Is that what you want? It's important to know that before people are elected. So elections are what matter. Elections have always mattered, but now that Roe is overturned, now that states can protect babies, now that elected people at every level can say, we love abortion, or no, that's taking a human life. Now that that can impact local policy, you need to be aware of it. If you say you're pro-life and you're not aware of where candidates stand, you're not a very good pro-lifer, because the entirety of this debate gets down to the law. This program, that's what we've been talking about. Again, you're listening to Life Matters, and you can hear more at lifematters.life. Every episode goes into a distinct aspect of the right to life debate. We want to equip you to understand what it means to protect lives, to protect innocent lives. If innocent lives are not protected, then society has fallen apart. And if you care about other people, if you're a Christian, if you're a person of faith, is it just when they die? Is that all you care about? Because in point of fact, right now is where you apply your faith. Right now. And if you care about other people, the law is also supposed to care about other people. As we said, I gave just one analogy, and that would be with speed limits. But the purpose of the law is to care for human beings. That's the reason we have governments. For this reason, governments are instituted among men, said America's founders, to establish these laws that will protect the value of lives. It's human lives that the law should be about. It's human lives that government should be about. It shouldn't be about bureaucracy. A lot of you now know that. A lot of government work tends to focus on bureaucracy, and they dismiss human lives. Well, vote those people out. Get involved and understand that human lives themselves matter. And if you think taking a baby's life and throwing it out is going to help a woman, well, we'll be glad to talk to you about that, but it doesn't. And talk to women who have had abortion. Talk to lives that have been destroyed by the abortions that they actually welcomed. I know quite a few women that have had abortions. I regard them personally very highly. They're friends of mine, but they regret their abortions. So I'm not picking on them as an individual. The decision to kill that baby is the issue. And up until 73, the laws of every state said, doctors shouldn't be killing anybody, much less human babies. So the laws of every state protected the lives within that state. That's the reason you have a government. And that's what America's founders reiterated. The gift you've been given of being an American citizen is a great gift because American citizens are supposed to pay attention because they own the government. Remember Lincoln saying, government of, by, and for the people. The problem that Americans have is they haven't taken the time to understand the principles of just government, to understand how civics really works. And I want to encourage you to do that. We have other programs you can listen to. But for more information, go to californiaprolife.org. They sponsor this program, and we're affiliated with the National Right to Life Committee. Any state you go to has a National Right to Life affiliate. They're there to help you locally, as well as on the national level. Once again, restore the very precious right to life.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.